It was a Tuesday morning like any other in the landscape of American daytime television. The familiar, sun-drenched set of Live with Kelly and Mark glowed with its customary warmth. The coffee mugs were full, the banter was light, and millions of viewers were going about their morning rituals, half listening, half living, soothed by the predictable comfort of a show that felt more like a daily visit with friends than a broadcast. At the center of it all was Kelly Ripa, a woman whose public persona is a masterclass in effervescent endurance. For over 2 decades, through changing co-hosts, personal milestones, and the unrelenting glare of the public eye, she has been a constant, always smiling, always sharp, always strong. But on this particular morning, the tectonic plates of that carefully curated reality shifted. In front of an audience of millions, the unbreakable Kelly Ripa broke. It was not a dramatic, performative sob, but something far more potent and rare. A quiet, genuine shattering of composure that was both unsettling and profoundly beautiful. It happened not in response to tragedy or scandal, but to a simple, raw declaration of love from her husband, Mark Consuelos. This moment, fleeting and unscripted, became a cultural touchstone, a powerful reminder that in a world saturated with artifice, the most radical act is to simply feel. The stage, 2 decades of curated authenticity. To understand the weight of this moment, one must first appreciate the unique ecosystem of Live. Born from the legacy of Regis Philbin, the show has always thrived on a delicate alchemy of scripted segments and genuine off-the-cuff interaction. When Ripa took the helm full-time after Philbin's departure, she evolved the format into something uniquely her own. The show became a diary of her life, a space where she shared the mundane chaos of parenting, the frustrations of marriage, the absurdities of celebrity, and the triumphs of a woman building an empire. Her audience grew with her. They watched her navigate the fraught transition from sidekick to lead, weathering the very public and often critical search for a new co-host. They celebrated with her as her children grew up, and they mourned with her through personal losses. Through it all, Ripa maintained a steely resilience. Her smile was her shield, her wit her sword. She was a master of deflecting genuine pain with a well-timed joke, of acknowledging difficulty without ever seeming defeated. This created a paradox. She was authentic, but her authenticity was, in many ways, a performance of strength. The audience felt they knew her, but they knew the version of her that was built to withstand the pressure. The dynamic shifted seismically when Mark Consuelos, her husband of nearly 3 decades, officially joined the show as her co-host in 2023. This was no mere professional hire. It was the culmination of a lifelong partnership played out, until then, largely in the margins of her narrative. The show was no longer Kelly and a co-host, it was Kelly and Mark. The subtext became the text. The private jokes, the shared history, the deep, often unspoken understanding of 2 people who had built a life from the ground up, it was all suddenly front and center. The curated authenticity of the show was now infused with the raw material of a real, decades-long marriage. The moment, a seismic shift in the studio. The segment seemed, on the surface, routine. It was a conversation, a reflective pause in the usual whirlwind of celebrity interviews and lifestyle tips. Mark began to speak, and almost immediately, a subtle but palpable change swept through the studio. His voice, usually a steady, confident baritone, developed a faint but unmistakable tremble. The live audience, conditioned to laughter and applause, fell into a hushed, anticipatory silence. The cameras, those unblinking mechanical eyes, instinctively tightened their focus. You could see the shift in Kelly's posture. The professional host, always braced for the next segment, the next cue, began to recede. The woman beneath the persona emerged. Her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief or wide with performative surprise, locked onto her husband. In them, a viewer could trace a rapid, silent journey. First recognition, then a flicker of surprise, and finally a dawning, almost fearful understanding. She knew in that instant that the fourth wall was about to be obliterated. This was not a TV moment. This was a life moment, and it was happening on live television. Mark's words were not the stuff of Hollywood screenplays. They were not flowery or poetic. They were elemental, the bedrock language of a long-term partnership. He spoke of their journey, not as co-hosts navigating ratings, but as partners navigating life. Through every fight, every doubt, he said, his gaze steady on hers, "You've always believed in me. I wouldn't be here without you, Kel." The sentence hung in the air, simple and devastating in its truth. Through every fight, every doubt. This was the acknowledgement of the messy, untelevised parts of their union, the arguments, the insecurities, the dark nights of the soul that every long-term couple endures. It was the antithesis of the perfect #couple goals narrative peddled on social media. It was real. And that's when the facade cracked. Kelly's eyes, those windows to a soul usually guarded by wit, welled with tears. They were not a single, dramatic tear, but a sudden, uncontrollable flood that glossed her vision. She tried to do her job, to be the host, to keep the machine of the show running. She opened her mouth to speak, but the professional armor failed her. Her voice, that familiar, chirpy instrument, cracked under the weight of the emotion. It was such a human, unvarnished sound that it felt almost intrusive to hear it. The studio remained in a state of suspended animation. The audience was speechless, collectively holding its breath. The cameras, now in extreme close-up, did not look away. They captured the subtle tremor of her lip, the rapid blinking as she tried to will the tears back into their ducts, the deep, shuddering breath she drew in a desperate attempt to reclaim control. It was in that breath, in the silent battle between the public figure and the private wife, that the entire moment crystallized. And then she surrendered. Leaning into the vulnerability rather than fighting it, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "You always know how to get me, Mark." The spell was broken, but the atmosphere was transformed. The statement was an admission. It was a testament to their intimate knowledge of each other. He knew precisely which emotional chords to strike, and she knew she was powerless to resist when he did. It was a moment of profound, mutual exposure. The anatomy of a viral moment, why it resonated. In the immediate aftermath, the digital world erupted. Social media platforms, often cauldrons of cynicism and division, were briefly unified by a wave of empathetic resonance. The comment section beneath the clip became a digital town square of shared feeling. Fans wrote, "This is why we love Kelly, she's so real." But what does real mean in this context? It wasn't that her previous laughter or strength were fake. It's that this moment showcased the full spectrum of human emotion, proving that strength and vulnerability are not opposites, but essential partners. She wasn't just the resilient talk show host, she was a woman being deeply moved by her husband in real time. The collision of those two identities, the public icon and the private partner, created a powerful authenticity that scripted television could never replicate. It resonated because it was a rebellion against the curated perfection of modern life. On Instagram, we present highlight reels, vacations, promotions, flawless family photos. On LinkedIn, we boast of relentless growth and success. Our public selves are often polished to an inhuman sheen. Kelly Ripa, a figure who exists within that world of glamour and performance, momentarily tore down the curtain. She showed the world that even in a multi-million-dollar studio, under the glare of hot lights and the scrutiny of millions, a person can be brought to their knees by a simple, heartfelt truth from someone they love. It was a masterclass in what researcher Brené Brown has famously termed the power of vulnerability. Brown's decades of research have shown that vulnerability, the willingness to show up and be seen with no guarantee of outcome, is the birthplace of connection, creativity, and belonging. In that studio, Kelly Ripa did not choose vulnerability, it chose her. And in her surrender to it, she forged a deeper, more powerful connection with her audience than any perfectly executed interview or comedy bit could ever achieve. She demonstrated that courage is not the absence of fear or emotion, but the willingness to proceed in spite of it, even when your voice is cracking and your composure is lost. The deeper context, a partnership forged in fire. The emotional weight of Mark's words through every fight, every doubt is magnified exponentially when viewed through the lens of their unique origin story. Theirs was not a slow-burn, studio-arranged courtship. It was a whirlwind. They met in 1995 on the set of the soap opera All My Children.